January 9th, 2023. Issue, Volume 1, 169, Number 7, Daily Edition. Reparation, Congressional Record, Volume 169, Number 7. From the Congressional Record online through the Government Publishing Office. Reparations. Ms. Jackson Lee asked and was given permission to address the House for 1 minute. Ms. Jackson Lee. Mr. Speaker, it has been 38 years and I rise with enthusiasm on reintroducing H.R. 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. I am pleased to reintroduce this legislation and to acknowledge to my friends and colleagues that it was first introduced in 1989 after the implementation of the American Civil Liberties Act that provided compensation to Japanese Americans. H.R. 40 does not focus on all of that only. It focuses on the study of slavery and the understanding of what would be the next steps to end the vast disparities in the African American community even today in 2023. And so this introduction allows for a study, an analysis, and action. I am pleased with the more than 350 organizations, CEOs, scholars, state and local officials, and members of Congress who have been supportive in understanding the era of slavery in this country. The 13th Amendment may have ended slavery, but the disparities exist. Let us pass H.R. 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposal for African Americans Act. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to reintroduce H.R. 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. This legislation was first introduced by retired Member of Congress John Conyers of Michigan in 1989 and was intended to examine the institution of slavery in the colonies and the United States from 1619 to the present, and further recommend appropriate remedies. Since the initial introduction of this legislation, its proponents have made substantial progress in evaluating the discussion of reparation and reparatory justice at the national level and joining Main Street international debate on the issues. Though some have tried to deflect the importance of these conversations by focusing on individual monetary compensation, the real issue is whether and how this nation can come to grips with the legacy of slavery that still inflicts current society. Through legislation, resolution, news, and litigation, we are moving closer to making more strides in the movement towards reparation. Today, there are more people at the table, more activists, more scholars, more CEOs, more state and local officials, and more members of Congress. However, despite this progress and the election of the first African president of African descent, the legacy of slavery lingers heavily in this nation. While we have focused on the societal effects of slavery and segregation, its continuing economic implications remain largely ignored by mainstream analysts. These economic issues are the root cause of many critical issues in the African American community today, such as education, healthcare, and criminal justice policy, including policing practices. The call for reparation represents a commitment to entering a constructive dialogue on the role of slavery and racism in shaping present-day conditions in our communities and American society. Over the last several years, we have had a distinguished academic and activist panel from the National African American Reparation Commission dive into some of the most salient points in the discussion of reparation. I am supporting this effort by continuing to hold the annual reparation retrospective at the annual legislative conference of the Congressional Black Caucus. I believe that H.R. 40 is a critical piece of legislation because it goes beyond exploring the economic implications of slavery and segregation. It is a holistic bill in the sense that it seeks to establish a commission to also examine the moral and social implications of slavery. In short, the commission aims to study the impact of slavery and continued discriminations against African Americans, resulting directly and indirectly from slavery to segregation to desegregation process and the present day. The Commission would also make recommendations concerning any form of apology and compensation to allow the long delayed process of atonement for slavery. With the over-criminalization and policing of black bodies a reoccurring issue in African American communities, I believe this conversation is both relevant and crucial to restore trust in the government institutions in many communities. As in years past, I welcome open and constructive discourse on H.R. 40 and the creation of this commission in the 118th Congress. Though the times and circumstances may change, the principal problem of slavery continues to weigh heavily on this country. A federal commission can help us reach into this dark past and bring us into a brighter future.